And I think especially at that level of racing, as a professional triathlete in the very pointy end of the field, it's often it can just come down to your mindset on the day and how if you can push through the challenges that you get, and it's really about the one percenters at the level that you're racing at. Even for, I guess, your more age group athletes, it's they can have some big improvements or big changes in the results that they get based on what they're thinking. And
Mm-hmm.
especially as if you're doing this full time, the mind games it's very easy to let them get the better of you. And with with this book, what's the Fearless Mind? What were the sort of main takeaways that you got from the book? What caused you to read it 5 times?
Well, it's a very simple read. It's a small book, and it's just the way that he talks in the book, or he writes in the book, is just very simple cues and understanding. He basically in the book, it makes you just feel confident. Um, what I got out of it was really how simple things could be, rather than always thinking about the what ifs and stuff. And it's really just embracing the now, the moment, and being in the moment, and how to do that. So a lot of the times, like, he used to be a tennis player, so he related it to tennis a lot. And so if he was in a match, and his mind was unraveling, he would focus on his backhand, and it would just be a very specific part of the backhand, like the flick of his wrist. And so every time he would go into a match, it would be like, for example, and I don't know anything about tennis, but say, fl- uh, flick your wrist to the right. And so he would just say in his head, flick right, flick right, flick right. So it's very simple things at first that you need to focus on, so that you don't have all this external stimulus and talk in your head that could be negative. And then from there, the book kind of goes into the negative self-talk and, like, the things that we say to ourselves. And the key the key out of all of it is really that internal chatter you have and what you say to yourself. And so a lot of the times, we keep a journal, and we have to choose our words. And so he's helped me create little cues and things to look at every day, where I can really just choose those words and, like, have them as cues, so that if my mind is unraveling to certain aspects, I can go back to those all the time. And an example of this, in a race, is, just the words "I am strong." Like, it just helped me focus on the power output of um, on the bike. Or it's just very, very simple things, and he just made it very profound within the simplicity of it.
Mm. Yeah, and that's what I think is really the key to doing things well, is to find the simplest form of it, and that comes down to your mindset. And I mean, we run a lot of swimming clinics here in Australia, and we've been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years. And at the start, there's about 24 different drills throughout the clinic, and it was just overload. And I think that really um, the trying to find the simplest way to do it is the best
Mm-hmm.
way. So now we do, it's like 4 or 5 drills. It's simplified down into 2 or 3 key points, but the results that we get now compared to 5 years ago is so much better, just because it's really boiled down to the simplest form of things. So yeah, it's great that he's able to do that. And the funny thing about flow, and I mean, you're with the Red Bull team, and they're really all about getting into flow with all of
Mm-hmm.
their athletes. And the thing about that is, as soon as you think about getting into flow, you've lost it. As soon as so
Mm-hmm.
it's a very challenging thing to do. But I was chatting with a guy, Grant Giles. He's a triathlon coach here in Australia and coaches a lot of the pro guys over here. And he's very big into to mindset and psychology. And he said that with one of his athletes, who was actually a surf ski paddler, in order to get into the flow, all he had him do was just think about the feel of the paddle in the water with every stroke that he was taking. And that's it. You don't want to think about anything else. It's just feeling the paddle in the water. And for swimming, for me, it's just the first part of the catch, just kind of getting the feel for that entry out in front, the early part of the catch. And then if I just focus on that, the rest of it tends to come easily, and I can just get in the zone really, really well.